There's a cast of characters on this video chat right now that have never met each other other than, well, Ben and Bevan, because they're father and son, so that makes sense. My name's Evan. I'm from the GOAT. And right now we're doing something completely interesting and international. We've never done it before. And these fellas, along with Cliff Ducharme out of Winnipeg, who's also on the call, are thinking, what the heck am I doing on a Thursday in Canada afternoon talking to a guy out of Lloydminster, Saskatchewan? I'm sure Ben, Bevan, you guys are like, what's going on? But we're going to set the stage here. I'm with the GOAT, but way back in the day, early 90s, 2000s, I used to live in a town called Slave Lake, Alberta. And in Slave Lake, they had a massive demolition derby. And I remember these days when I was growing up. And there was a family that put it on, mainly a guy named Brian Pearson, with a bunch of volunteers. Fast forward to now, this demolition derby is back. Kicked it off last year, back with vengeance this year. And Ben Johnston, Bevan Johnston, Cliff Ducharme, welcome to the call, fellas. We're here to talk about Crash for Cash, Slave Lake, Alberta. All three of you guys have ties to the backstory to this bad boy and have been with this thing since the beginning. This thing is massive. And just so everybody watching the video knows, we've got Winnipeg on the chat, and then Bevan and Ben, you guys are calling out of New Zealand, so you're from the future on this one, eh? How are you guys doing?
Yeah, we're
it's
good,
a beautiful
mates.
future.
Yeah, beautiful future. Good. I'm glad to hear it.
Sitting here at 11 a.m. on Friday. Bit cloudy outside. Just finished some work meetings, but yeah, we're here to talk about Slave Lake, Crash for Cash. We can't wait. 6 months away. We're already itching in our seat.
So I'll start with Bevan. Bevan, you came to Slave Lake years ago. When did you first attend this first demolition derby back in the day?
I actually attended the big event back in 2001. It was in Edmonton at the time because they'd shifted it to there.
Right.
And that was my first meeting with Brian. And I also met Cliff there and a lot of other people. And it was just an absolutely awesome experience. It wasn't a good racing experience for me, but it was a fantastic experience.
So Ben was there with you when he was a younger guy. Now, Ben, into adulthood, you two were recently contacted by Brian Pearson, who set this whole thing up and has family ties to me. I mean, I grew up in Slave Lake. I've been there. And he reached out and said, how can you help? So that's what we're doing. But he reached out to you boys and said, are you coming this year? And you said, what?
We were committed to coming straight away. And so we raced last June in Slave Lake at the very first one for the relaunching.
That thing was huge. Cliff, I don't know, you were there last year as well for the kind of rebirth of this whole thing?
Yeah, it was a great time meeting everybody again.
You guys were aware of each other from 2001, which is cool. The thing that I didn't realize is back in the day in Widewater, when we were running this thing in Slave Lake, the purse was $100,000. I think on the final year, Michigan, I believe, Ron Hodges, is that ringing a bell, fellas? Ron Hodges out of Michigan won it on that final year in Widewater. He took away $50,000. This year, though, $60,000 on the line. Lots of prize money, tons of stuff. We're going to get into it. But the main thing is we're teeing it up July 11th, 12th, 13th weekend, Slave Lake, Demolition Derby, Crash for Cash. You guys are coming. This is a big deal internationally, obviously. What makes this thing a draw for people like you, Bevan and Ben, coming from New Zealand all the way to Slave Lake, Alberta? Why did you want to come to this thing?
I want to race the best, the very best. And I'm a show off, and that crowd just goes off, and just the people. It is like nothing else.
Is it just a Canadian thing, or is it a demolition derby thing? What is it about people who like to smash cars into other people with cars? Like, do you have to be a little bit like, what is it? When did you realize that was the thing for you?
Yeah, well, I just fell into it, I guess. It was became a choice for an accident that I had that I couldn't do other racing, and I wasn't even allowed to drive the car. So I begged everyone that I could go in the Demolition Derby, and then it just started from there. But it's about the people. I've met so many fantastic people, and there's so many places in the world where I can go and stay and visit people, and the connections that were made are just absolutely huge. To stay and reconnect and meet Cliff and his son, and we were staying at the same place in at Big Fish Bay there, and that was just, man, if you get a chance to stay there, it's worth staying there.
Cliff, going to your side, I mean, we jumped on the video and all of a sudden you seen these guys' faces and I could tell the energy in your voice just lit right up, and it was like seeing old friends. What does it mean to you, this Demolition Derby community? And then what does it mean looking at this massive event that's coming up this summer, now deemed Canada's largest demolition derby? That's a big deal.
Yes, it's very exciting. I grew up, my dad drove, so I grew up around the sport. I've been around it since I was like 5, 6 years old, and I've been driving for over 30 years myself, and been to a few different places in Canada and United States. And yeah, the competition, like Bevan was saying, is incredible there. But like he said, more importantly, it's the people there, the drivers, the community, the Brian and Gunnar and all the Pearsons that put it on. And just a big shout out to everyone for all the hard work that they put into it. The facility is absolutely a demo heaven.
It's nice to hear those words, in that I know growing up in Slave Lake, it's a proud community, and it's a community that'll give you the shirt off its back. I mean, you know that from dealing with Brian and Gunnar and those folks and everybody else, the volunteers, everybody who's working on the track. It's just one of those things where this group that's putting it on, I know there was a bit of a hiatus, and there was a time where it wasn't going on, and now you got new blood, new generation coming in saying this was a big deal. Let's make it even better, and let's kick this bad boy off. Pre-registration is on now, fellas. So if you're watching this right now and you're into Demolition Derby and you actually drive, well, I'd get in on it, because obviously space is going to be limited with how big a deal this is. We got drivers from all across Canada, almost every province and territory represented. You got Ben and Bevan here representing New Zealand. I know you guys have some mates from Australia who you know of who are going to be coming over. Somebody out of the UK is coming over. We got people stateside. So Ben, over to you. As you get into this, you watched your dad go through this, you came to Canada 20 plus years ago. What does it mean for you now, kind of reinvigorating this thing and actually being a driver in this thing and getting to crush it yourself?
Yeah, thanks, mate. I was born to do derbies, so having my dad, I had no choice. I was watching him from when I was a baby that I can't even remember, flipping cars and getting smashed here in New Zealand. And back then we had the cool late 60s, early 70s cars as well that I like. It's changed here with Jappers over there in big American V8s. That's where the action is. The cars are built way to a bigger level. And yeah, when the call came out last year, it was a once in a lifetime opportunity to come out, race side by side with Dad. You never know what can happen, and to be there with him after watching him when I was 7 was awesome. So it was a huge effort. So much obviously sponsorship goes into there, and effort from Brian, Gunnar, YSL, and now Impact's also taken me on board this year, which we're super excited about doing it out there for them. But yeah, it's one thing continuing it on because Derby's in the blood. But it is, as the other boys were saying, it's the community spirit of the event. Slave Lake's not a huge place, but if you just showed up to that track and the amount of people that get behind it, you'd think it was a massive city. And it's incredibly impressive. I've never seen a community event like it.
Again, you're watching this video and you understand as drivers how much work it goes into making something like this happen. And the fact that you boys would travel from across the globe to not miss this thing, I think speaks to the volume of this event and how big it's just going to continue to be. You can get all the information you need to get crashforcash.ca. And this is interesting too. I was texting with Brian earlier, guys, and he said last year they did this thing called, it was a spin to wheel thing every Thursday, and they were doing this thing for pre-registered drivers, and they gave over $15,000 back before the event even started to drivers who were dedicating their time to come out. He texted me and said, this thing's coming back, so keep a heads out on that. But if you're pre-registered, you're on the spin to win, and they're going to do that weekly leading into the days ahead of this event. And there's going to be a bunch of sweet prizes. People might potentially win their entry fee back. So this is a call to Demolition Derby drivers across Canada, across the globe. I know it's a tight-knit group. I know globally people recognize each other. So if you don't have this on your radar, July 11th, 12th, 13th this year, Slave Lake is where you need to be. Crash for Cash. Fellas, before we wrap this thing up, you already talked about the volunteers. You talked about the sponsorship. You talked about the community itself. Maybe wrap it up in a sentence or two, what it means for somebody who's never been there before and why they should put this on their calendar for this upcoming summer. Maybe Cliff, go to you first.
Oh, I guess the atmosphere and the excitement and I don't know. It's just the whole thing for me. It's great. I 2001 when Brian stopped doing the demos, I lost interest in it, and I had no interest at all until my son showed me what Brian was doing in 2024. So I'm in 100%, and I can't wait for July 11, 12, 13, 2025, Slave Lake, Alberta. Bring it on. Let's go.
Love it. Bevan, over to you, man. Any tips and tricks for you? Are you going to give maybe some tricks to the trade over to Ben? And my question, I guess, before you guys give something up is, if you guys kind of get lined up and there's an opportunity for you to smash into each other, are you going for it, or are you gonna give each other a little bit of a break?
One shot, one opportunity, hey?
Well,
Ben already knows.
If they're stuck, I'll give them a good shot. If they're stuck.
Thanks, mate.
Nice.
We also brought Thomas, my grandson, which is my sister's boy. He came as well. He's 4 years old. He's 5 now. He's talking about it all the time still. And so we're looking, maybe he might be coming back with us as well. But yeah, if it comes down to Ben and I, Ben knows already that I've got the experience. He's going to get it. And I'm Impact's #1 driver at this stage, and he's #2.
Well,
Awesome.
my son Cody wants to. My son Cody is always bugging me. We never got to demo with each other yet. So if there's a chance where me and him are down to it, you're gonna see a show for sure.
Awesome.
Hey, Cliff.
That's awesome.
Cliff, Ben and I have already done this in the backyard before, and he nearly knocked me out.
Oh yeah, I haven't got to do that yet. And, I can't wait to get him in there and teach him a lesson, or maybe he'll teach me one. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, a little humble pie. I guess, Ben, final words. Your dad chirping a little bit, but he also gave you some smoke there. He also gave you some respect. So what do you got to say about it all?
Yeah, I mean, I'm known for putting on some spectacular things back here in New Zealand, entertainment-wise. I put the body and the car on the line. So if anything, when it comes down to it, I'll be a little bit worried for him in the other car. But we'll put on a show for the crowd. That's what it's all about. We're not out there to hurt anyone, but we'll put on a real show, and we'll go with it till the end of we're the final 2 cars for sure.
Love it.
Yeah, and just a last thing, for me, it's just like when you're a kid playing those PlayStation games. It's actually real life. It's the bone crunching action out there. Where the commentator last year was awesome, and you sit in the car and start your engines, and all the V8 started up, and it was epic. I was sitting in my car bashing my roof. I couldn't wait to let rip on that track. So it's a huge, awesome spectator event. Can't wait to see everyone there this year, and bigger than ever.
Love it, fellas. Well, we'll end it with this. crashforcash.ca. You can get all the details, line it up, get pre-registered, and then that gets you in on the spin the wheel and potentially more money and prizes coming back your way. I know they're looking for drivers right now, so get on it if you're in the game. And if you're in the local Lloydminster or Saskatchewan area, this is your chance now. I put it on the radar early because in talking with Brian earlier today, accommodations are going to fill up. People are coming from all over the globe to check this thing out, fellas. And so you want to make sure you got a spot ahead of time because big money on the line. Ben, Bevan, Cliff, appreciate you guys. All the best as you get geared up for July. And I guess we'll see you out there.
Thanks.
Appreciate you, mate. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
This is
1061 The Goat.
Here we go!
Is CKLM Lloyd Mister.